speak now. And can you hear us, Hannah?
Yeah, hello. Yeah,
Okay, go
yeah,
ahead.
yes. I'm here. Thank you, Hillary, Marge, Kings. There's always a problem with the spaces. Thank you, Kings. When I was as a listener, I could not hear the space. Last week I had the same issue. I had to change my gadgets. But anyways, that's not here nor there. Comparing to what people are going through on the ground. My condolences to the families of the fallen comrades and the ones in the hospital. Now, people are more focused, the ones who like sideshows, they're more focused on the sideshows. These sideshows literally to divert attention to the real cause. And what the regime is doing is exactly that. And I think they've managed up to some extent because I do not believe that it's a coincidence. Same person who's been advocating nobody should host him happens to be the one who hosted him. Um, uh, if you could bear with me, Hillary and Madge, the reason I'm saying that is this person was, for me, and this is my opinion, for me, this person was never part of this movement, but it's Kenyans who gave them legitimacy. Because when somebody says I've been abducted and then comes back and then nobody questions anything, and the same person and then says, "Oh, nobody should," and point fingers at others. For me, I think it was a long con. It was all along. I think part of their divisive tactics. That's what I think. I don't think this guy just came out of the woodworks and then all of a sudden he became the one to be hosting. I doubt that. I think the plan was there all along, and it's Kenyans who gave him the legitimacy because people followed him, people listened to him, people were arguing with him on the timelines, and so on and so forth. And he's not the only one, and he will not be the first one. I think last week what Dr. was saying is we have to be vigilant. So we have to be vigilant. And part of that is to shut the noises that are coming, the sidelines, the sideshows. Now, I think we should focus on the movement on Sunday. What are people going to do? How can you be vigilant? How can you manage when you go on the ground? What you should look out for, and so on and so forth. But if we keep talking about what has happened and a space that was hosted, for me, I don't know. And the funniest thing, Hillary, is last night I saw the same person opening a space and people still went in their thousands. So mi sijui wa Kenya nani ameturoga, sijui tulirogwa na nani, but please, enough of these sideshows. A lot is at stake here. The whole nation is at stake. People have suffered enough. It's time to dismantle this system. We need a system that will deliver automatically without me screaming on top of my lungs. That is what the goal is. The goal is not just to divert attention. We need the IBC constituted. We need, I don't know who to go out. No, we kill the snake from the head, and if Ruto goes, then it's how do we fix this system? A system that has been there pre-colonial. We need that system fixed. So it's each day at a time. Now I think the focus should be on the Saba Saba movement on Sunday. Thank you, Hillary. And I do kindly leave me there because if I drop down, I cannot hear what the good doctor and everybody's submissions. Thank you very much.
We're sorry, and fix your mic and your phone. And thank you so much for your submission, Madge. Mm.
Thanks. And so I just want to underline that the day yesterday actually reflects the problem that we have in the society and the reason why we are where we are, being bought. No, somebody was bought yesterday, but the government as it is and the MPs, some of them are political prostitutes, being bought left, right, and center. And when they do that, then we cannot have a functional government. So actually what happened yesterday is a disease that's really killing us. And that's why you have, non-performing people, but they bought their way in, or somebody is today in this party, but before the elections, they hope, others hope after the elections, and they actually have the mandate from party A but going to party B. So this is actually the life that we lead, and I really don't know what to say there, but nevertheless I want to say that the tactics that are being used, the very divisive tactics, are very little ones. They were also used against me the past 2 days, where it was really, even we are hosting a space tomorrow, but it was false information was put out there that we would be hosting the president. That is something that we are not doing. We never even said that, but paid mercenaries were put out there and people followed blindly. So my request to everyone who's in the space, when you see something, please try to think about it before you react. Think about it, and think about, when I put this out, who's benefiting? What's the effect of it? Because some of you blindly, the past 2 days, supported the regime very blindly. So guys, please, let's keep being vigilant, and let's think about the things we do before we do. Terry, if you're ready, take a go. Otherwise, let us know so that we can pick other speakers.
Oh, thank you very much, Marge. I thank everybody. The first thing I would like to say is to agree with a lot of the sentiments that have been expressed. Struggles are never like wedding processions, or they are not nursery choirs. A struggle is difficult. It's not a straightforward thing or route that you take without impediments, because those in power are not going to live willingly, especially when they have committed so much crimes. The entire Republic of Kenya is a crime scene. State House is a crime scene. The obscene looting happening, supervised and presided over by William Ruto, is just too obscene to not pay attention to. As he was speaking yesterday, and I couldn't watch him, I haven't watched him because there is no reason to. Many Kenyans and their families have been burying dead people, dead comrades that were on the street peacefully and did not deserve to die. But he couldn't even acknowledge the fact that his police officers killed these innocent Kenyans. He hasn't acknowledged that. He apparently claimed, from what I'm reading, third party, for those who watched him, is that criminals snatched guns from police officers and shot innocent people. That's incredible. Who says that? What kind of a president says that? What kind of a president refuses to admit that what we saw, because it was on live TV, we saw them. We saw armed police officers and police officers in civilian clothing aim at protesters and shoot them dead. There was a sniper at parliament buildings that shot innocent Kenyans dead. These are not things that you expect somebody at State House to refuse to admit. How does a president, any president, refuse to admit that innocent Kenyans died when a constitutional body, an independent body, Kenya National Commission of Human Rights, the defenders, and many other independent organizations like Amnesty International and media houses such as the CNN and BBC have reported, confirmed, verified reports from families and hospitals and whatnot, that these individuals died of gunshot wounds. Forensic experts will tell you that the weapons from which the bullets were fired were government issued. He hasn't had any inquiry or investigations done, but he sits at State House, which he has not left since this thing erupted, and pronounces that criminals are the ones who are responsible. If he knows there were criminals responsible, what did the police do? What did the security services do? Why weren't these criminals arrested? We know, of course, that it's a bunch of lies, just like he tells all lies all the time. Did he take responsibility as the so-called president? No, he didn't. Did he take responsibility for the fact that it is his arrogant refusal to withdraw the finance bill before it went to the House that led to the protest, at least precipitated, triggered off the protest? No, he didn't. Did he recall or fire anybody in the police? Because it does have power. In the security sector, the minister, the PS, the Minister of Defense that has been speaking carelessly, has he done anything to condole with the families that lost loved ones? Did he contribute, or did his government contribute towards the hospital bills, the bills for the morgues, the burial expenses? Did he call any of the families that lost loved ones? No, he didn't. So we have a rogue regime that has not recognized what it has done, the damage, the harm it has inflicted on Kenyans. On top of it, he then announces unilaterally that he has formed a committee, another committee, to do a forensic audit, he says, of public debt, without understanding that Article 211 to 24 to 214 provides that the Auditor General is the one who is supposed to do an audit of public expenditure, including debt, and then provide a report to the National Assembly Committee, the appropriate committee, that will then look at the report, and then if there are actions to be taken, then the appropriate government institution should take action. The Auditor General has already produced numerous reports about misappropriation of public expenditure, including specifically at State House since this government was installed in 2022, and nothing has happened. The Auditor General has indicted many government ministers and ministries and parastatals of abuse of public office and misuse of public resources, including at State House, and no action has been taken. Ruto was claiming that he would only take action if somebody is taken to court. This is ridiculous. Because to begin with, that is not what political responsibility requires. Political responsibility requires that action is taken once public confidence, the public has expressed that their confidence has been reduced, or they have withdrawn confidence from a public officer. And we did that. Kenyans did that on June 25th in huge numbers. He has not resigned. None of his ministers have resigned. And he has not fired anybody. But he's arguing about taking people to court. Who does take people to court in Kenya? One, the DCI. He controls the DCI. He appointed the DCI director. And he seems to dictate who is to be arrested and who is not to be arrested, who is to be arraigned and who is not to be arraigned. Number two, EACC. Ruto appointed a priest as the head of EACC against the law. The law says EACC and all these law enforcement agencies, civilian ones, have to be headed by advocates of the High Court of Kenya because they know the law, they understand the law. That's their work professionally. Not a priest. A priest preaches in church. He appointed a priest. But more importantly, even this priest has released reports and has indicted many members, senior members of Ruto's administration. Ruto has taken no action. So EACC is unable and unwilling to take the ones with the highest responsibility in grand corruption to court. And I believe it is with the instruction from Ruto himself. 3, the Director of Public Prosecutions. That's the person who ultimately decides who is prosecuted and who is not prosecuted. And whom did Ruto appoint? Somebody nobody knows his name. Nobody knows his educational background. Nobody really knows about his professional career. He has done absolutely nothing and was involved in corruption the length of River Nile when he was working in Mombasa. Forged land title deeds. I have the evidence. I've seen it. This is the man he appointed at the head of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And again, this man is unable to arrest anybody or recommend the arrest of anybody and prosecution of anybody, and terminates prosecutions of people that even a grade 2 child would tell you there is more than credible evidence to suggest that that person, when taken to court, would be convicted. There is sufficient evidence to believe that Didmas Baraza shot somebody dead in broad daylight, but he's walking free. So this is the context of what happened when Ruto purportedly addressed a public space yesterday on X. Ruto has refused to accept that Kenyans have indicted his administration and has gone ahead to unilaterally appoint a body that he believes would whitewash his administration. Who did he appoint? First of all, forget about the fact that this body is illegally constituted because there is an independent constitutional body that is supposed to be doing what this so-called task force is supposed to be doing. So there is a duplicity of action and a wastage of public expenditure by purporting to institute this body. So look at the chair of the body, Nancy Aseko Onyango. What is Nancy Aseko Onyango's current position? Director, Office of Internal Audit and Inspection at the International Monetary Fund, IMF. The same people that brought us Finance Bill 2024. So they are supposed to be coming here to basically clean after themselves or try to make Kenyans believe that they had legitimate debt when we don't, including from the IMF. That is the chair of the so-called task force. Who are the members? Aaron Tegea, economist at the IMF, the same organization. Who is the other member? Professor Louis G. Francisci, Assistant Secretary General of the Commonwealth. So the same people, the puppet owners, whom we are complaining about, are controlling Ruto like robots against the interest of Kenyans, are supposed to be members. Who is the other member that he announced? President of the Law Society of Kenya, Faith Odhiambo, who immediately declined the appointment together with the entire Law Society team on the same basis that I have stated, that these, number one, is an illegal construct, a legal entity set up by Ruto outside the constitution, and that this role vests on the Auditor General. But even if it was constitutionally constituted, the members are not fit to conduct an independent forensic audit. An independent forensic audit would have to be conducted by someone not answerable to Ruto and someone that does not report directly to Ruto, that would submit their report for public scrutiny to the National Assembly. Even however captured it is, institutionally, it is the one where the report is supposed to be tabled. Furthermore, nothing stops the regime from submitting reports and documents regarding the so-called public debt currently to Parliament or to the Auditor General, or to allow citizens of Kenya to access the same information. Because we have a lot of accountants, we have a lot of forensic accountants in Kenya who can conduct on their own without billing anyone a forensic audit of the debt. It's not a very difficult thing. From what I have heard, from what I have learned, Ruto has essentially borrowed close to 7 trillion Kenya shillings, yet the debt that was outstanding when he came into power was 1.7 trillion. Where did over 6 trillion go? What has he done with it? I suspect that most of it has been stolen. So Ruto has lost credibility, and it seems like he has not learned that Kenyans have of buying people, of trying to use force, of using propaganda is going to get him out of this. It isn't. Next, Saba Saba. Tomorrow is the 7th of July. The 7th of July is very important in our history because on July 7th, 1990, Kenyans in their thousands rose up in protests demanding for multi-party democracy. That is when Kenyans united, rose up. That is before, I believe, the Gen Zs were born. So this struggle did not start yesterday. This struggle did not start in June. This struggle did not start with the Finance Bill 2024. As I said a week ago, the struggles began against the British and have continued throughout. So each generation has had their protests, have had their maandamanos, have had their grievances, and have stood against the regime that is oppressing them. So in 1990, in Kenya, we had a one-party rule and a one-man rule. The man was called Daniel Arap Moi. The party was called Kenya African National Union, KANU. The party that, quote unquote, won independence elections in 1963 and metamorphosed into a de jure, a legal one-party state through a constitutional change in 1982. Moi ruled Kenya alone with KANU, with his cronies and a few mafia from 1982 to the eruption of Saba Saba 1990, and continued to do so through 1990 and 1991 until 1992. That's when he gave in and allowed multi-party democracy. What were people complaining about apart from multi-partyism? One, Kenyans wanted detention without trial to end. The same thing Ruto is doing even under the new constitution. Is abducting people, detaining them, sometimes over the 24-hour limit without charge. That is what people are rising up against. People were rising up against abuses, human rights abuses. Universities and colleges and scholars were demanding academic freedom because at the time there were books that were restricted, that were not supposed to be used at the universities. In fact, Moi had categorized anybody with a beard as a Marxist, as a communist, as a socialist, and he targeted them for persecution. People could not just write freely. The press was not free. People were demanding freedom of expression. People wanted freedom of association. People wanted a free press. People wanted grand corruption to stop. People wanted the end of tribalism because, as many would know, at the time, most of the people that were appointed into high positions were members of his tribe, just like now. This regime is predominantly made up of probably 2 or 3 tribes. And that is unacceptable because Kenya comprises of 54 communities. And the constitution requires that in every appointment, in every office, we should see the face of Kenya. So this is what people were fighting about in 1990. And when you look at now, you would say, apart from the fact that Kenya is a multi-party state, all the other problems are still persisting. We still have abductions. We still have illegal detentions. We still have human rights abuses. I'm not sure about academic freedom. That probably is a battle we won, because I believe right now in our schools, most people can do research and write almost on anything. As to whether it is thriving is another question. We do have freedom of association. It is suppressed, but it is there. And of course, we still have corruption, grand corruption. We still have tribalism. We still have nepotism. At that time, Moi reacted by detaining prominent members of whom he perceived to be the organizers. For example, Kenneth Matiba, Charles Rubia. There were several people who were detained. In fact, he had also detained Raila Odinga and many others without trial, without taking them to court. And of course, people were tortured. Matiba came out of detention paralyzed and eventually died out of the conditions that he was subjected to in prison. The result, ultimately, multi-parties. And eventually, in August 2010, we amalgamated the new Constitution of Kenya 2010. So those are the big wins. But we did not make